Hey guys, I hope all of you are doing well in this new year of 2024. I know it's been a while since my last YouTube video, but before I get the chance to explain, there has been a sudden shift in my perspective about art. And while I was trying to complete this Star Wars themed drawing that you're seeing right now, that shift has only gotten to the point where I begin to question my art and how is it portrayed in front of an audience, such as yourself. But I want to ask you this question first, and that is, what is art? The definition goes like this. Art is creating something beautiful or meaningful with imagination and skill, which is a form of expression of ideas or feelings. Now that's basically the simplest definition of art. But when I go back and think about it, I feel like something is missing from that definition. Let's break it down a bit more. Why is it called art? Well, if we were to look at it from a long time ago, back in the Latin era, it's related to the Latin word ars, which is A-R-S, which was used in the 13th century and means art, skill, or craft. Okay, so you would expect its meaning to be the same for centuries, right? No. The thing is, the definition of art was changed over time, especially what is perceived to be art. So this begs a question: how can art have a meaning? While I was doing my research, I stumbled upon different articles. And there was one article by Lucija Marder, who is also an artist as well as a photographer. In her article, she explains how art, as well as its perception, has changed over the years. After reading the article, it gave me the same question: what defines art? Alright, so does that mean art has no meaning and can't be measured? Well, that's a yes and a no. The definition of art falls into three parts: representation, expression, and form. Representation. This refers to the replication of something beautiful. In other words, how well is the beauty of an image captured on a canvas? In the 17th century, people valued art based on how faithful the replication of a subject was, and this would be stated as good art. Expression. This depicts the embodiment of emotion within the artwork, allowing it to evoke some type of feeling in the audience, whether happiness, love, fear, dread, or anger. Form. Now, when I was reading form, I didn't quite understand what it was at first, because I know there are different art forms, such as painting, film, music, sculpting, literature, and architecture. But reading it over and over again, I realized it meant that art shouldn't be judged based on concept. However, it should be about its formal qualities. This included the shape, space, lines, texture, color, and balance, all of which are elements of art. These different categories of art not only describe what art is, it also means that with each passing year, as we change and experience different events in our lives, art also changes due to what is occurring at that specific time. For example, within the 17th century, art was believed to be done with skill, where the artist would practice at replicating their subject's beauty to the point at which their skill allowed them to be in the upper echelon of society, which would eventually lead them to paint for royalty. In the 18th century, as humans began to explore ideas of enlightenment through rational thought, artists became free with their art, experimenting and exploring different ideas not only through skill, but through beauty and emotion, hence the essence of expressing one's spirituality and feeling on a canvas. This in turn would make the art piece more dramatic and leave the audience with many questions. In the 19th century, art not only grew to the point of freedom, but it started to break the natural laws of what's actually real in our physical plane. It was as if artists no longer painted consciously, but allowed their dreams to control their brush. The days of drawing beautiful landscapes, sceneries, and portraits were still present at the time and still are to this day. But back then, dreamlike scenes were more popular, introducing the concept of surrealism, and cubism. In the 1960s, artists began to explore the relationship of man and machine, leading to the genre of digital art. This was another article I read by Lucija Bravic. Apologize if I mispronounced the name, but she is also a writer and content specialist. In her article, she went on to explain how technology became a new gateway for artists from the 1960s to the 90s. That's when digital art grew tremendously. In the early days, a machine would take the information of a simple computer program and produce line drawings on paper with brushes and pens. At that point, the possibilities were endless. Artists could expand on a different genre of art. Later on, personal computers became a thing and digital art was more improved, allowing more creative freedom. Eventually, another medium of art was produced, and that was AI. Another article, which was done by Sam O'Brien. In his article, it states the reason why AI is very controversial among artists. If you're confused why, then let me explain. Basically, to sum it up, AI is an algorithm that takes the input of a set of images and manipulates them to the point they are produced as a set number of alternate images. Those images can be selected based on the user's preference. This means that not only can an artist use the AI to create images, but this is made public to everyone else. And you might be thinking, so what? If someone that isn't an artist wants to create images for their own personal use, well, that's not a problem. The problem lies within the algorithm. Remember, AI can't just create images on its own without using data. Okay, right. So what's the big deal, you may ask? Well, where do you think that data is coming from? AI is a program that learns from human beings. It's in the name, artificial intelligence. What I mean is, the art that is produced is basically a carbon copy of someone else's artwork. It isn't made from scratch because AI can't think for itself. Well, I hope not, anyways. AI doesn't necessarily support artists because it steals the person's hard work. Imagine if you created an invention that could make you endless amount of money in the future, but then someone stole your idea and placed their name on it. All that hard work was a waste and you received nothing. That would basically be theft. The other issue is the art that AI creates is nothing but a carbon copy. It's not like a human practicing and studying from one of the greats like Da Vinci or Vincent van Gogh, then mastering their own skill, or if the person just practiced over the years by just drawing without taking inspiration from another artist. With AI, it lacks that human emotion, that human touch, causing it to be cold and distant. It's kind of interesting, to be honest, because you could probably tell when something looks like an AI image. There will always be that lack of expression or ignorance with the colors and lines, losing its identity along with its form. People who aren't artists probably don't understand or don't care. Some people believe artists are overreacting, and if we wanted to stop, we should just stop posting our art online. Well, no, I don't think that's the case, because that should be my choice. And my choice is to post my art online. And as long as I can prove it's mine, then that's good. But I'm not here trying to say what's good or bad when it comes to art. I'm just concerned how it's being handled and the way things are going these days. I'm not sure if humans are losing their creativity or are we losing our humanity. But hey, maybe I'm being paranoid. From the 17th century to now, art has evolved, and it's not only artists that paint or draw. I mean, look at famous sculptors like Michelangelo. He was a painter as well as a sculptor. Or how about famous poets like Edgar Allan Poe or William Shakespeare, who also not only was a poet but a writer. No, well, how about musicians like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart? Wolfgang is such a badass name, by the way. Or Ludwig van Beethoven. And as years go by, these names will change as new creators emerge, like Adele, Eminem, Michael Jackson, Tupac, Bob Marley, Richard Prince, Sandoz Arts, Jazza, Ichiro Oda, S. Michael Hampton, Jenny Saville, David Finch, and many, many more. All of them are creators, humans that have made their own path of doing what they love and decided to make their names stand out, having value.
a place where they told you what to chase, told you how to run the race. Every move was on the page, but I didn't like their way. Had to fight and misbehave, had to find a way to change, had to leave to find my way. Caught up in a daydream, I beat my mind up there almost daily. It's how I pass time, no opinions safely. It's how I understand what I want in this place, see. Cause everybody wanna tell you bad things, what could go wrong, what fame brings. But success is a finicky thing, and if you ain't sure, no, it'll never be. I don't wanna let myself down, myself down. I don't wanna let myself down, myself down. I don't have to plan it, I can go change my fate. You won't understand it, all alone, that's okay. People, I can't stand them, they don't want me to change. Keep me where I'm standing, and I don't wanna be where I am. And I want something more, take a chance. It could be possibly my last dance, my last dance. I don't wanna let myself down, myself.
At first, this idea of whether humans are losing their creativity has long been a thing in my head due to the advancement of technology. However, because of technology, we have digital art. So, in a sense, there will always be a good side of things. But, anyways, that's another topic for another day. The reason I haven't been posting as much is mostly due to the fact that I've been trying to adapt my talents in other areas. Hopefully something that will help me in the long run. Plus, I have to work, so it's been a bit of a challenge to get content out to the public. Before I tried to post every week, but that was way too much stress and time. and and because I tend to overwork myself to the point of exhaustion, I'm not even kidding. That level of stress is way too much for one person. and it has been an issue of mine ever since high school. I do more than the minimum and it just leaves me drained, but I hope to make a change this year. So far, it's been good. I've been taking one step at a time and just enjoying the journey along the way. For this painting, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted, but I had some vague idea, which is normal for any type of drawing because you may think you know what you want at first, but as you carry out the process, you tend to change your perspective on what might be needed and what can be left out. So, for instance, I was going to draw a man and an alien creature on the hill looking up, but while I was doing it, I thought it wasn't necessary. It gave the idea it gave the idea of the man being a drifter who happened to come upon a civilization being invaded, or maybe he ventured too far and found himself in a military war between nations. You might think the background was more difficult to design, but it was more of the ship. I played around with different ideas of its design, looking at references, redrawing certain parts, and playing with shapes. It's actually pretty funny how simple shapes come hand in hand with art, because with the human body, you can actually just use simple shapes to make it up from scratch. And speaking of the human body, I am trying to start an online class about anatomy, and the first class would be gesture drawing. I think it's a good idea to have a proper understanding of anatomy because the human body can be a very complex thing. However, once you add the proper shapes, just simple shapes, you'll be surprised how easy it is to learn. If anyone is interested, I would have an online one-on-one session or a group session via Zoom while I use my drawing app to show and explain how to do gesture drawing. So yeah, that was my introduction to my first online class. Now back to the video. When it comes to shapes, they play a very important role when it also comes to drawing, especially with composition. Composition has the ability to make or break a drawing or painting, and it's all because of how it looks to the audience. I do need to practice more with composition because I haven't spent a lot of time trying to flesh it out. But what I basically remember and understand is that usually it's best to have something with odd numbers. That's why I drew 3 ships. For the background, I needed there to be an indication of dread/fear. So I needed the ships to embody that type of fear. The way I did that was to make the land point upwards at the ships, using the mountains as arrows to signify there is something devious approaching. I even tried to make the rocks bend/distort, as if the land was sick, but also doing it on both sides of the painting to make some sort of frame. And even with the ship, I managed to produce an oval, and this would prevent the eye from leaving the drawing, so it would be a continuous cycle. The colors I chose for the land is more of a reddish orange, resembling a desert. In the foreground, it's good to understand that there is more saturation while the background is more desaturated in color. This is like when looking at a painting of a landscape, and the mountains tend to have this sky blue color, almost blending in with the sky. This allows the painting to have depth. For the ship, I wanted it to be more profound, so I gave it a blue color, which is cold and opposite to the background's warm orange color. The ship took a lot of time to render because there are so many things I could have done with it, but I thought of something, and that was the saying, less is more, so I kept it simple. For the drifter, I also wanted him to have a sense of not belonging, so I gave him a traveling bag and a staff emitting a blue light.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Yeah, don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring. I just want a life that is worth every day exploring. My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me. My whole life I just wanted to be somebody to be. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great.
Okay guys, we made it to the end of the video. I'm glad I was able to get everything off my mind and be able to explain as much as I could, and also my concerns about art and how I can be able to show my art to the audience, and hopefully I can get better along the way. There's one more thing that I want to say. I want to end this video with a Bible verse from Matthew 25 verse 14. In the chapter of Matthew, it states that there were 3 servants that were left behind by their master. However, before the master could return, he gave his 3 servants talents. The first servant received 5 talents, the second servant received 2 talents, and the third servant received 1 talent. Within the period of time after the master's absence, the first servant worked and doubled his number of talents to 10, making him a profit in return, while the second servant did the same, also doubling his number of talents by 4. However, for the third servant, he decides to bury his talents until his master's return. When the master returned, the master was thrilled of the first and second servant and was happy to see that they were faithful, eventually letting them in on his joy, making them rulers. However, for the third servant, he came to the master and said that he was afraid of losing the master's money, and to protect himself, he buried it. This angered the master, and he said to him, he was lazy and wicked, taking the talent from the third servant and giving it to the first servant with 10 talents. The passage of the New Testament not only represents that we should have faith in the talents that God has given us, but we must take risks. It is a testament to one's faith in their ability to produce more based on their own talents and obtain enough to live. If we don't, then that just means we have wasted our talents and moved aside our own abilities, resulting in the loss of our own identity.
Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great.